This is not where the Eagles offense want to be. 2nd and long, turns into 3rd and long. Doug Peterson is going to start really having to scratch his head to figure out how do they gain positive yards on 1st down.
Here is Wentz. Going to air it out near side. It's intercepted. Picked off by Fabian Moreau. After a super strong start, and Wentz near side, and that is intercepted. And it's picked off by Moreland with some blocks. Jimmy Moreland inside the 20.
21-3 in this game. Wentz off play action, looking for the end zone, and it's intercepted. Darius Williams.
Man, you just can't throw it. I don't get it.
I heard Doug Peterson the other day at a press conference talking about Carson Wentz, and he said, hey, every play, you just don't. You're not really sure what you're going to get.
Wentz's 3rd down pass is picked. 4 wide receivers. Wentz protected on the pass, batted at the line of scrimmage, and is it picked?
So Carson Wentz has been awful this year, like really, really awful. And I've been getting this question every single week this season of why this has happened. Why has he regressed so much since his 2017 season where he was easily an MVP frontrunner for most of the year until he tore his ACL in I think December of that season against the Rams, and he's never really looked the same since. And I know there's been some other stuff that's happened, the back injury, the concussion from Clowney, but really 2017 was the peak and it's not really close. And so really the question is, what happened here? Why has there been such a regression? What are all of the factors that have led to Wentz not just being a lesser quarterback than he used to be, but one of the worst quarterbacks by almost every metric you can think of in the entire league? I'll be honest, I've watched every single Eagles game this season over the last week and a half, and there's a lot of issues at play, both big and small. But for the sake of brevity and keeping this episode remotely watchable, I'm going to narrow it down to the 3 biggest issues that I've identified that Wentz has had so far this season. Number 1, mechanics. He's always had some kind of little mechanical hiccups here and there throughout his career, but they've all kind of joined forces in 2020 to make him a very, very inaccurate quarterback in certain areas of the field and when trying to make certain throws, particularly deep outs to his left. It's been really, really bad. And so I think those are probably making him inaccurate to start with. Number 2, he plays a lot of hero ball lately, which he's always been a gunslinger, but he knows his team around him is not very good, and so he just tries to make a play. But the thing is, when you're not a very accurate quarterback down the field and your decision-making is suspect as it is, when you then try to force plays that really shouldn't be forced, it leads to even more turnovers, which has been an issue every single week. So the hero ball has been bad. And then number 3, it's less about Wentz and honestly more about Doug Peterson, who knows that he has these issues, and some of the decisions that he's made in terms of play calling or kind of situational game management have really exacerbated Wentz's existing issues and made him even worse than he would be, in my opinion, under a different coach. So those are the 3 things we're going to dive into today. But kind of before we get into the whole nitty-gritty of this, because there's a lot to go over, obviously. Since it's Cyber Monday, I do want to say that I did just do my biggest merch drop of the year over in the Film Room store. I'll have a link in the description as well as a pinned comment, and I'll put it on screen too. This Steelers hoodie, I mean, it's not really a Steelers hoodie. It's more of just kind of a play design of an iconic Steelers play. Some of you might recognize Santonio Holmes over in the corner of the end zone over here. It also comes in black. And I've also done hoodies for a whole bunch of other iconic plays like the Vikings, Seahawks, a couple for the Packers, the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Cardinals, the Raiders, the Patriots, whole bunch of teams. So if you're interested in kind of this style of hoodie and you're looking for maybe a gift for somebody or just kind of something for yourself, or if you just want a different way to support the channel, again, link over in the description or in the comment below. Hopefully you guys like them. If you buy them, great. If you don't, that's cool too. Either way, I'm glad you're here, and let's move on to Carson Wentz. Let's start with mechanics because there's still a few different kind of sub-issues there. First and foremost, he still has that really long windup, which he's had since he was at North Dakota State, so that's obviously not going anywhere. And he also has a tendency to do what's called overstriding at times, meaning he steps too far into the throw with his front foot in his throwing motion. And when you kind of step too far or overstride and your base is too wide, that can lead to almost locking the front hip, which then limits how fast and how far you can rotate your hips, which if you've watched any other of my quarterback videos over the last, 3 years, everything does kind of get governed by the hips. Accuracy, velocity, all of that kind of stuff. So if you lock the front hip, it can throw everything else off. When you look at the pick that he threw against the Rams, for instance, he way overstrided, which in my opinion kind of affected his release point and almost de-elevated the ball. Like if you're throwing over the middle to a big receiver like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, especially if you're trying to fit it there before the safety can kind of get there from the backside and lay a hit, you want to throw it high and almost towards the back of the end zone where the receiver can just kind of use his size and go get it. He left it short and flat, which then gave the DB the best possible opportunity to undercut for the pick. So overstriding, in my opinion, contributed heavily, not just the fact that it wasn't a great route and it wasn't really a great decision, but the actual accuracy of the throw was hampered by overstriding. And then the third kind of main mechanical issue that's popped up a lot this year, which has led to a lot of inaccurate throws, and no fewer than 4 interceptions have been caused by this, by the way, is that he tends to pigeon toe with his front foot during his release. Now, pigeon toeing, at least for a right-handed quarterback, means that his toes on his front foot are pointing to the right, or inward, I guess you could say, rather than pointing directly at his target like they're supposed to. A good general rule of quarterback mechanics is that the ball is going to drift in whatever direction your front toe is pointing to, unless you're really overcompensating in other ways. So when Carson is trying to throw to his left, but his toe is pointing to the right of that receiver because he's pigeon toeing, then the ball is going to carry to the right and be behind his target. Like I said, 4 interceptions alone can be explained solely by that pigeon toeing causing inaccuracy on throws to Wentz's left. And he almost threw a 5th one last week against the Browns as well on a deep corner route as part of a flood concept, but luckily the ball was also low and the DB couldn't finish the catch when it was thrown right to him. There are times where he's able to compensate for that pigeon toeing by over-rotating his hips to make sure he gets all the way around to a good release point. Again, there's another good example of that over-rotation and compensation from later in that same quarter against the Browns, honestly on the same throw to the same spot. But as you can see, that over-rotation has overall been very unreliable for him this year, and it's led to a lot more bad throws than good ones. Now, if you're asking me why Doug Peterson or why the quarterback's coach, Press Taylor, have not kind of intervened and fixed these mechanical hiccups already this season, I don't really know. But what I do know is that there's a lot of quarterbacks coaches out there that have deeply held beliefs that you do not mess with mechanics in the middle of a season because, believe it or not, that can sometimes make things worse. So maybe there's a little bit of that going on. And plus, they didn't really have a true offseason where they could iron this stuff out in June or July or whenever the hell they would get together. So it's kind of a confluence of factors here of why his mechanics have been bad and why they haven't been fixed. I don't really know the full story, but what I do know is that these mechanics are a problem, and until they get fixed, they're going to keep being a problem. Now, number 2 on the list here, and this might be the most egregious problem of them all, Carson cannot stop playing hero ball. Now, we've always known that Wentz is a gunslinger. He's played that way his entire career, but in the past, he's also had some very talented rosters around him that have enabled that play style in the first place. This year, it's different. His receiving core is very young and very unproven. Zach Ertz is older now and no longer in the middle of his prime like he was back in 2017. And Dallas Goedert, for as good as he is, has not been able to stay healthy this year. Plus, his offensive line has also been completely wrecked by injuries too, whereas back in 2017, with the lone exception of Jason Peters, the line stayed mostly healthy all year long, and it had 3 Pro Bowlers or first-team All-Pros on it to boot. There was a lot of talent on that 2017 roster that arguably kind of elevated Wentz. And now most of that talent is either gone or retired or injured. And so when you take a lot of backup players or just straight up very young players and put them around a quarterback who's both inaccurate and mechanically deficient and makes just really awful decisions every single week because he's trying way too hard to make a play, it can just kind of make all of the problems that an offense is experiencing even worse. Let me show you an example of that. This is from week 8 in that Dallas game. A lot of you may actually remember this pick really well because it was just so catastrophically dumb. But I really need to set the scene here because throwing this bad of a pick in this situation is almost unconscionable for a fifth-year starter that's making over $30 million a year. It's 1st and 10 from the Dallas 34-yard line with just over 2 minutes to go in the second quarter. The Eagles are up 7-0 already. They still have 3 timeouts, and they're going to receive the second half kickoff as well, so they have a chance here for a double scoring opportunity if they execute this correctly. All they have to do is just not make mistakes, manage the clock, work the middle of the field, and I'll say it once more for emphasis, do not make mistakes. Doug Peterson called a concept here that the Eagles refer to as Detroit in their playbook, which is a decent way to beat cover 4. That's the coverage that Dallas is in on this play, and you can tell they're in quarters all the way just because they want to keep everything in front of them and force checkdowns. But the thing is, there's kind of only 2 ways to quote-unquote beat cover 4 with a Detroit concept. Either you catch the strong safety sleeping and he takes the cheese on the number 2 receiver underneath, which then leaves the deep post wide open without a bracket deep down the field, or if either of the safeties don't take the bait and someone brackets the deep post, you can progress to the wrap route from the tight end to see if he finds an open void in the zone, or worst case scenario, if the tight end is also not open, you just wait for the running back to release from his chip block and he'll have a one-on-one in space with a linebacker for a much safer but shorter gain. It's pretty much a touchdown to check down type of progression here, as the great John Gruden would always say. However, the way Carson Wentz read it here, for some god-awful reason, he wanted the deep touchdown no matter what, regardless of whether that safety took the bait. You can see him staring down Cowboy safety Donovan Wilson here, even after it's pretty clear that he's opening up to go bracket that post. And then once Wentz finally got off that read to check Goddard, he panicked when Jalen Smith was sitting in the throwing lane, so then he rolled out to his right and went back to looking for the post against double coverage rather than just checking it down like he was supposed to, or, just keeping the ball and running with it all by himself with nobody around him, and that would have gotten him most likely a free first down and kept the clock moving. I have, to this day, no clue why he threw this ball into double coverage after already moving off of that post in his progression. It's 1st down and 10, well into Dallas territory, just outside the 2-minute warning, with 3 timeouts still in his back pocket and a 7-point lead, and yet he still wanted to be the hero for no reason. I don't get it. It's like he's trying to do all the same things that Patrick Mahomes does, except the difference is that Patrick Mahomes would just keep the ball and run. That's what makes Mahomes so great, is that even though he always makes crazy throws every single week, for the most part, he only does it when he really needs to. When he's not in a desperate situation, he doesn't pull this kind of stuff on 1st down from the 34-yard line. I mean, it's insane to me that a 5th-year starter making this much money, again, it's over $30 million a year, it's crazy to me that he's still making these same mistakes week after week after all this time and all this investment into his development. Again, it's absolutely flabbergasting. But that brings me to my last point, which is Doug Peterson. He knows all of these issues exist. He knows that his mechanical problems lead to accuracy problems, which lead to turnovers. He knows that his decision-making problems come from the fact that he keeps trying to play hero ball when he's physically not capable of doing it. He knows all of this, and he's known about it for months, and yet week after week, he's still calling plays and managing situations in ways that kind of open the door for Wentz to do this to himself and to do it to the rest of the team. And I'll give you an example. Let's go back to that Cowboys game from about a month ago. This was from early in the first quarter, about 5 minutes into the game. It's 2nd and 19 because, of course, they took a sack on 1st down. And what does Peterson do? He calls a max protect shot play off play action from under center on 2nd and 19. What kind of professional defense is going to be playing the run extra aggressively on 2nd and 19? Is he insane? I mean, of course they're not going to be playing the run here. And so when you only release 2 receivers down the field on 2nd and 19, no duh, they're all going to be doubled up and nobody's going to be open. So what did Wentz do? Well, he did the predictable thing. He does what Wentz does. He extended the play, he held the ball for an eternity, waiting for receivers to open up that were never going to get open, and then he got sack fumbled and gave the ball right back to Dallas in his own territory. That's what Carson Wentz does, and Peterson put him in position to do it again. Carson Wentz is always going to try to turn nothing into something. That is his play style. And so if you give him nothing to begin with a bad play call, guess what? He's going to turn the ball over. That's literally what he is as a quarterback. And the fact that the Eagles coaching staff hasn't figured that out yet just blows my mind. Philly is a bad football team for the worst reasons. They can't pass protect up front because they can't stay healthy up front. They make ridiculous play calls at the weirdest times. Their quarterback is constantly trying to rescue a below average roster, and he's not good enough to do it. I don't know what the fix is here. I don't see how this gets better. At least when I did a breakdown a couple weeks ago of how the Seahawks defense is terrible, there were actual appreciable things that I saw that they could do to improve, and to their credit, they've done that in the last 2 games. They played better against LA. They played better against Arizona. I don't know how the Eagles offense improves here. They actually play the Seahawks defense tonight on Monday Night Football. And when you're kind of looking at this stoppable force versus movable object, I honestly would bet on the Seahawks defense more than I would bet on the Eagles offense right now, because I don't know how they're going to get better. If your 2 biggest problems are really questionable coaching and really bad quarterback play, those are the 2 hardest things to fix in this entire sport. How are you going to fix that in a week? Like, even against a bad Seahawks defense that is improving, how are you going to fix these issues in a week? I don't know. The only thing that I do actually know for sure is that the Eagles have a young quarterback on the bench named Jalen Hurts that has a ton of talent, who's an incredibly hard worker, and who's already shown throughout his college career that he could overcome all of his own issues to be a better player each and every year. And at least right now, those milestones of improvement are more than I can say for Carson Wentz. Eventually, a very tough decision is going to have to be made between these 2 guys. And if things keep trending the way they're trending, if Carson keeps playing the way he's playing, and if he keeps playing that way against a very, very below average Seahawks defense, believe it or not, as much as it might pain me to say it, that change may be coming sooner rather than later. Cheers. Thank you for watching this week's episode, and also thank you to our sponsor for the week, Magic Spoon. Unfortunately, one of the hard parts of pushing 30 for me has been slowly but surely giving up eating things that I used to love as a kid, and one of those things was sugary cereal. I used to start every morning with a bowl of cereal because it was quick and easy and obviously tasted good, but as I got older, I had to stop that habit because most cereals that you buy at the store are really bad for you. There's tons of sugar and carbs, and they just aren't good health-wise at all. But Magic Spoon is different because each serving has 0 grams of sugar, 11 grams of protein, and only about 3 or 4 net grams of carbs too, depending on the kind you're eating. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and non-GMO, so it's healthy and hearty for people on virtually any diet. Plus, the best part is that they all taste great too. In particular, I'm a huge fan of the cinnamon flavor because when I was growing up, Cinnamon Toast Crunch was my favorite cereal, and I honestly didn't really expect it to taste that good, but it really does. It tastes like a sugary cinnamon cereal like you had when you were a kid, but it's actually good for you. You can get a wide variety of other flavors as well, ranging from cocoa to frosted or fruity, peanut butter, even blueberry, whatever you want. No matter what kind of cereal you like that's normally bad for you, Magic Spoon probably has a healthy alternative for you to try. So, if you're interested in checking out Magic Spoon and making your diet that much healthier, you can go to magicspoon.com/filmroom at the link in the description below and use promo code FILMROOM at checkout to get free shipping. Plus, if you don't like it for any reason, Magic Spoon will fully refund you with their 100% happiness guarantee, no questions asked. Again, that is magicspoon.com/filmroom, promo code filmroom at checkout to get free shipping on your order.